Welcome to the Scrum.org Community Podcast, a podcast from the home of Scrum. In this podcast, we feature professional Scrum trainers and other Scrum practitioners sharing their stories and experiences to help learn from the experience of others. We hope you enjoy this episode.
Hello and welcome to the Scrum.org Community Podcast. I'm your host, Dave West, CEO here at Scrum.org. In today's podcast, we're very lucky because we're going to be talking to StoreDot Limited about how they use Professional Scrum to develop fast charging batteries for electric cars. Now, I'm an electric car driver, so I feel the pain. Actually, my children and my wife feel the pain more. I love being able to sit for an hour and do absolutely nothing, but they get very grumpy with me, and it always causes fights. So I'm really excited that we've been able to help StoreDot really improve how they delivered their electric batteries, fast charging electric batteries. But I don't know much about what's happening at StoreDot, so I'm lucky to be joined today by Carmit Ophir, a Senior Director, R&D Program Manager at StoreDot. Welcome to the podcast, Carmit.
Hi, how are you?
I'm good. All the better for seeing you today. And we're also lucky to have Michal Epstein, a professional Scrum trainer who worked with StoreDot. Welcome to the podcast, Michal.
Thank you, Dave. Nice to be here.
It's awesome that you could both take the time because I'm super, interested in the application of professional Scrum in real world contexts, obviously, but also in these sort of high tech R&D science sort of context, because I do see, and we've had a few podcasts on this, I do see organizations really benefiting from professional Scrum in those scenarios. So for our listeners, and Carmit, you'll probably be the best person to set the scene. Our listeners would really like to know a little bit about StoreDot and what you do and a bit of context.
Okay, so first of all, we are a startup. We are located mainly in Israel with a small R&D branch in USA. A total of just 112 workers, and we are developing the chemistry level of cells, battery cells for extreme fast charging of electric vehicles. Like 100 miles in 5 minutes of charge. This needs a really out of the box thinking, a lot of innovation, just like inventing new chemistries altogether.
So tell me a little bit about the composition of the company. There's chemists, there's engineers, there's people that know a lot about electric vehicle stuff. Who are those 100 people?
Yeah, so most of the company composing the R&D unit, which we have chemistry, synthetic of material, formulation development, cell design, development of cycling procedures, and engineers that develop the cell packing itself, the level of its ability to introduce into existing BMS and battery packs that of existing cars. So system engineers, we have process development because we need to mix all these materials, and this is in a nutshell.
Wow. So the reason why I just wanted to lean into that for a second was because it's not just a bunch of software engineers wandering around, which is obviously where Scrum often is. You're talking about the whole gamut from like really serious chemists super like interesting characters there, I'm sure, all the way through to systems engineers and process engineers who are very, very different from chemists and from, so you've got a very varied audience, as it were, which is super, super interesting. So, all right, now you've got all these people, they're building the next generation of battery technology. What were the challenges? Why did you think, what we need? We need a different way of working. Let's look at Scrum. What were the challenges you faced?
Yeah. So first of all, you can understand that the level of uncertainty is huge, because you're inventing materials and you don't know how they will connect and how they will work together. And at the beginning, StoreDot was built as professional teams working in parallel. We had the general requirements, and they worked in parallel on solutions and different part of the battery. And what we faced is that in some cases these solutions were not working together, and we discovered it in like very, very late in the progress, like months after the development has been progressed. Because these were professional teams that work in parallel, so the level of collaboration was very, very low. Data sharing between teams, feedbacks of concerns were raised very late in the development stages, like flags that could have been raised much earlier. Low level of transparency of what is going on at every certain moment, what are the results in real time, because we were like meeting once in a quarter to review the results, like in the waterfall scheme of project management. Each of these professional teams had dominant managers setting the tones, which experiment, what we're going to do. So we had like 85 researchers, but in practice, like 5 were setting the tones of, instead of using all the minds that are available. For me, as a program manager, it was very, very hard to prioritize and manage the resources of the different tasks. And it was very, very hard to measure the progress, because we measured it only once in. And as an impact of all these challenges, we suffered from continuous delays in the timelines and achievement of the milestones.
Yeah. So, I mean, so you had these domain specialist sort of teams, whether it's some sort of chemistry for some part of the process or whatever, and each of those had their own sort of agendas and leadership, and R&D was being driven by a few people. 5, you say, that are actually making decisions about the experiments you're going to focus on. Yeah, it's funny. As you were saying that, we did this podcast with a company called Dino Therapeutics. They're using machine learning and genetic CRISPR technology, not just CRISPR now, but everyone knows CRISPR, sort of genetic stuff. And they had exactly the same problem. That was exactly, I mean, obviously doing something slightly different, biology rather than chemistry, I guess, though at the end of the day I think it's all chemistry, but that's another topic. And they're focused on these really horrible genetic diseases, and they just couldn't all work together, so they built an organization. They changed the organization because of that, and used Professional Scrum. Michal, you were you were there. Tell me your perspective as you first came into StoreDot.
Yeah, so as you said, it's not a software company. I have a lot of experience with applying agility in software in the software industry, but then I came to them, and they speak chemics, and I don't speak the language of chemics, although I already speak a little bit now, but then I didn't know anything about that. And it was really hard, because I can compare it to medicine. Okay, it's like having a oncologist and cardiologist and an orthoped working all together. They are all doctors. They are all looking at the same human body, and yet they speak totally different languages, and it's really hard to understand the impact of one domain to another. And so I think it was a very difficult and important challenge. But eventually, I think we were successful to overcome it, and Carmit will talk more about that.
Yeah, so you built cross-functional, I assume, and obviously this is sort of like maybe later on in the story, but I want to get here quite quickly. So you built cross-functional teams, I assume, across all these domains. How did you organize? I mean, that's really, really challenging when you've got specialists who historically always want to work with specialists. So tell me a little bit about when you started introducing the ideas of Scrum, some of the main changes that you put in place.
Yes. So first of all, the concept of representatives from the different domains in the same team was not very natural for everyone, but really fast they understood they have a mutual target and a mutual goal, and they understand the benefit of working together and understanding the gaps together. And actually, the collaboration was like skyrocketing, like very fast. So very fast, the different domains, the professional domains, working together in teams, understand the level of benefit that they can get from one another, and the collaboration and the transparency and the aspects that different professional teams could give as feedbacks for results of the different domain. The collaboration and transparency level just like skyrocket. And the amazing thing was that one of the things that the developers said, that they felt as if the power, the innovation, the thinking was shifted towards them, instead of like getting the ideas from their managers. And the feeling of contribution was amazing. They felt like they are part of the company. They are now an active participant.
It's so funny you say that, Carmit, because the reason why I love Scrum isn't, because we can deliver amazing products. I mean, yes, I do like that. It isn't because, we're empirical or all that. Yes, that's all great too. It's because of the empowerment. When I've seen really effective Scrum teams, they sort of break down the traditional barriers of who's in charge, but who's delivering value. That sort of classical, the manager, and then the people are working for that, and they're doing it. All changes, but in science that can be challenging because people. There's a lot of hierarchy in science, right? Did you, when I was talking to Dino, one of the biggest challenges they had was traditional research scientists from Harvard and MIT were very sort of like, they like to hold their cards quite close to the chest and do the experiments and only really talk about it openly if it's been successful, really, which caused some issues. Did you have similar problems, Carmit?
I have to say that as their consultant, I saw the difficulty of the senior researchers that were previously the managers of the domains. It was very difficult for them to support and consult their teams, the junior researcher, other than tell them what to do. However, the other researchers, that one of the most prominent things that happened very fast in the process is that all the researchers, or at least the majority of them really felt they have an impact on the future product. Everybody came to me, and I remember that once the VP of R&D told me that their CEO entered his room and asked him, "Can you tell me what's going on here?" And he said, "What do you mean?" And he said, "I see everybody huddling, gathering together in the kitchen, talk to each other. I haven't seen this movement in the office before that." And he said, "Well, it actually can be seen, the collaboration between the people that the agile transformation did there."
So, what did you do with those senior science researchers? How did they come around? It took quite a while at Dino. I mean, and it took some incentives. It took a lot of cajoling, a little bit of massaging of egos. There was all sorts of things. How did they come around?
Yeah. So there were some difficulties at the beginning, but quite fast. The team leaders, the professional team leaders, they understood that their contribution is profound through their developers. They became professional mentors. Also, I, as a product owner, I keep coming to them. I ask them, "I need you to address this gap. Please talk with your team. Think of ideas." I continuously, recruit them to be our support system. And in reflection to what you said about that researchers don't want to share bad results. This is also a process that we talked about. What is an increment? Even understanding that something doesn't work, this is an increment, and it's something that we continuously say to the researchers. Please come with bad results, bad in brackets, because this is increments in science. Something that doesn't work, it's data, and they constantly understand that, and they bring all the results to the table, and we discuss everything very openly, and there's almost no hiding of results or some. And I think that also in terms of the understanding that we are all part of one product, nobody feels as if he holds the key by himself. There's the feel is that nobody tries to overshine or to achieve over his colleagues. It's really not the spirit. The teams are very, very. They have their own unity and the spirit of the team. They have their own chat, and they have their own inside jokes, and it's really nice to see how each time a new team is being developed, it is being created. It's just amazing to see the collaborations and the new interactions that being interacted very, very fast.
I have to add to that. Yeah, I have to add to that from my perspective, one of the reason that it worked, and these senior researchers really knew how to bring the team to work together collaboratively, is that the senior management, the VP of R&D, the VP of HR, were 100% minded to the process. They really believed in that. They really wanted that to happen. And this is the unconscious and conscious message that they provided to the teams. There is no other way to do that. They invested a lot of time in helping these managers, to get the tools to help their team grow. Spend hours of mentoring and coaching and supporting them. So it takes a lot of time and attention, but they were fully minded to that. And it doesn't work in 100%. Some of them did not accept the process, and eventually they left the company. And the senior management was able to take that risk, so the purpose will be able to flourish.
Yeah, it's funny. So what I observed from, Dino Therapeutics was exactly the same. The executives, the founders in this case, they were a bit smaller than StoreDot when they started. They're now a lot bigger, but those founders, that CEO, really just drove this message. And the people that didn't fit, obviously in Boston we have a very big biotech, CRISPR kind of community, so they just left and found companies that are more traditional. I also do think, though, there was an element of being a startup helps, because everybody's on that journey to build this amazing company, and it kind of like your own personal needs, I wouldn't say they're less important. Obviously, they're important, but you become part of this journey. I mean, I was in a startup, and we were sharing rooms. We were getting the cheapest flights. We were all vested in that journey, and it just felt like we all cared about everything, and we're willing to do anything for each other. I think that has an impact. So I'm assuming, Carmit, that we've got, that we're starting to actually deliver more innovation. We're delivering more stuff. Tell me a little bit about the results.
Wow! So the impact of this transition was just amazing. We started to achieve the milestone on time, and in some cases even ahead of time. And I must emphasize that the milestones that were given to us are very, very challenging, and we keep being amazed by the fact that we are achieving them. And it is part of the fact that we are inspecting and adapting daily. We're understanding the challenges. Something that was relevant yesterday is not relevant today. Reprioritizing, just like in a day-to-day actions, and it shows. We're not wasting times on things that are not relevant anymore. The usage of the resources is much more efficient because, again, we are prioritizing, and also we are looking at the full picture of what is most urgent and most important, and we are putting the efforts there. Interaction, collaboration, a lot of commitment. The developers are united, and they are really want to achieve and to push the team forward, achieving the goal. The amount of ideas that are coming from not only the developers. We have set a meeting called pre-planning, which is, that it's not part of the usual Scrum, but in this meeting, it's like 30 people coming together in one room, and they look at the goal, and they bring ideas, and we discuss. Managers, stakeholders, the power to initiate and innovate are in the hands of many others, and the open brainstorms and the discussions, and also it brings all the stakeholders to be also part of the progress and also part of the development. Full transparency and understanding gaps all through the way. It's just truly amazing, and the results are shown.
Yeah.
I have to sorry, go ahead.
No, you go, Michal.
Okay, so I want to add, from the process and agile perspective, the success story here is, first of all, they understand that it's not a project with a start and finish line. It's a continuous process of always improving and always searching for more improvement. They did not expect to get an agile coach, help them do the project, and then bye-bye. So we worked together very closely for about 2 years, I think. But we're still working together every now and then to challenge them to have another point of view. They are still working, and the agility and inspection and adaptation become the organization DNA. It's never perfect, but they're always challenging their pain points, trying other ways to improve, and they really embraced agility as an organizational DNA, and I think this is the main success of this organization.
That's super interesting. It's funny when just to compare it to what happened at Dino, because I think it's interesting to see these two very different domains do something very, very similar. Ultimately, that continuous improvement ethos ended up where the COO basically now it's continuously running that kind of philosophy into the organization, which is really, really interesting. And I think making sure that organizations appreciate that it is continuous, it isn't a project, that it doesn't start and end in the same way, I think is a huge change, and a really, really exciting one. That is awesome. All right, so we like to keep these unfortunately short, and I could talk for hours about this, but if imagine our listeners, maybe they're in, some sort of technical R&D in biotech or in chemistry or in electronics or in anything like that, and they're sitting there and they're seeing the challenges that you so eloquently described around sort of the domains being separate, the sort of conflict. They ended up a lot of waste in the system. What should they start with? Where should they begin this journey? Where would you tell them to start, Carmit?
I would say, first of all, try to find the right mentor that will be able to understand that there's no one suit that suits everything, and each domain of the industry. And we also started with a different company, and we understood very fast that they don't understand us. And then we got to Michal. So first of all, find your partner. Find your partner. I think it's really important, because there are differences between companies and R&Ds, and there's never a good time to start, because people don't like changes. And but if you truly believe in that you need a change, time is now, and it requires time and courage and consistency, and keep on going and inspect and adapt, and we're continuously doing that in each R&D management discussion. We are saying we are trying something new, and actually the teams are so familiar with changes that we're saying this is a change, we will inspect, and if we need, we will adapt, and nobody's like screaming their heads off. They understand we're continuously exploring. And the timing, for example, for us, the timing for the initiation of the process was really, really crazy. It was the first days of COVID. We are at homes, and everybody was in Zoom, and all the initial meetings with an introduction and the teams were initiated in Zoom, and nobody could meet, and it was crazy to start something so new and change the organization character, but there's no timing.
No right time.
Yeah, there's never a good time.
Yeah.
I think another thing that, from my perspective, tip for other organization, you have to believe and own the process. And in StoreDot, they definitely did that. Their R&D knew what Agile is all about. He knew that this is the way that he can get over the pain points of the organization, and he owned that. He was willing to invest time, money, and attention in the process for it to work. He worked in that. And I think it is a very important key for success, because unfortunately, many managers, even though they pay me as a consultant, they are still not really 100% owning the process.
Yeah, that's sort of that they're sort of outsourced owning it to you, because that's what they're paying you for. But at the end of the day, it's just like a fitness coach or a doctor or whatever. You're the person. You can't make somebody fitter. Doesn't matter how much.
Exactly, it's just like going to a dietitian. You can get the menu, and he needs to motivate you. But eventually, if you want to lose weight, it's your work to do in 100% of the time, and they own it.
That's very disappointing to know about that.
I know.
I wish.
The story of my life.
Yeah, that's unfortunately the case. Yeah, I think, and also the COVID point. I think, that might have been actually a blessing. I mean, obviously COVID was horrible and millions of people died. So I'm not saying that COVID was a blessing, but that moment created everything was changing. So changing this as well was just like, well, I have no idea what's going on in the world. So let's try this craziness as well. So it is funny that there's never a right time, but every time is the right time. It's that moment, because if you do it, just think how much waste is being done in these systems today, and you've managed to eradicate that, and you're going to see the benefits, and maybe I'm going to see the benefits as I get into my electric car and it only takes 5 minutes or 10 minutes to charge, which would be great.
Yeah, we really hope so. We have the batteries. We are there, so it's really exciting, and the level of progress during this year of the Agile was truly crazy and amazing, and we hope that you will hear about this very soon.
I know that we will. I've got every confidence, and what I want as well is electric lawnmowers. So I'm hoping this technology can be applied into lawnmowers, because that's a whole nother issue.
And electric laundry folding. Please.
Oh, yeah, well, yes, there is. That's actually my job, so I'm actually quite good at that. I'd be worried
you can support it as well.
that my wife would throw me out if I stopped folding the laundry. But we will see. So fantastic! Thank you for sharing your journey today.
Thank you.
I really appreciate you taking the time. I know you're incredibly busy, Carmit, and Michal, you're very busy. So thank you for taking the time. I think our listeners will really appreciate it.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you very much, Dave.
Welcome. So, and that's a wrap for today. Thank you. You've heard from StoreDot Limited, a company designing the next generation of fast charging batteries, and how Professional Scrum increased collaboration, transparency among scientists and engineers, increased commitments, and actually created a space that allowed for innovation, which is at the end of the day what Scrum's all about. I was fortunate today to have two awesome co-presenters, as it were. We had Carmit Ophir, from a senior director, R&D manager at StoreDot, and Michal Epstein, a professional Scrum trainer who worked with StoreDot. So, and listeners, thank you for listening. If you liked what you heard, please subscribe and share with friends, and of course, come back and listen to some more. I'm the luckiest guy in the world, actually. I get to listen to a variety of guests sharing their journeys in the areas of professional Scrum, product thinking, and of course, Agile. Thanks, everybody, and Scrum on.